Everyone, my name is Jessica Ayanada, and I'm a registered dietitian with Westminster Nutrition. And today I'm going to talk to you all about nutrition for disease prevention in perimenopause and menopause. We have chock full of information to share with you today. So my goal as a registered dietitian is to provide you with evidence-based nutrition information for your health and wellness. But of course, just a quick disclaimer that this is not a replacement for medical advice. And of course, anything specific to your individual condition should be discussed with your individual medical team. So today we're going to talk about nutrition strategies for heart disease prevention, diabetes prevention, osteoporosis prevention, as well as nutrition strategies for cancer prevention. So first, let's talk about heart disease. There are so many nutrition habits that are really helpful to prevent heart disease. And I'm going to focus right here in the middle where it says eat a healthy diet. Um, American Heart Association at heart.org has a lot of great resources on how to keep your heart healthy. And most importantly, it's really centering around eating a plant-based diet full of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, beans, nuts, seeds, plant-based proteins that are healthful for you, and of course, lean animal proteins like chicken, turkey, as well as fish. You also want to reduce your intake of sweetened beverages, refined carbohydrates, lots of sugary foods, added sugars, processed meats, and of course, foods that are high in sodium and saturated fat. And we also want to avoid trans fat, which we can find in a lot of baked goods, things like cookies, donuts, all those kinds of foods where they're trying to potentially replace some of the saturated fat, but still that hydrogenated trans fat is actually just as unhealthy, if not worse, than saturated fat. And of course, being physically active is really important as well. Adults should aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity or 75 minutes of vigorous activity each and every week. So if you're already active, definitely continue. If you're not active right now, start slow, start moving more, and just getting your body accustomed to regular physical activity. So of course, when we talk about a heart healthy diet, we also want to include more healthy fat in our diet. So this includes foods with heart healthy omega-3 fatty acids, things like fatty fish like salmon, tuna, mackerel, healthy seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and of course nuts. Walnuts is a great source of omega-3 fatty acids as well. All of these are really good. They're anti-inflammatory, good for your heart, good for your brain, just in general, really healthy to include in your diet. They can help reduce inflammation. They can also help with certain symptoms of perimenopause and menopause by helping with mood regulation as well. And if you're not able to get enough your diet, if you have sensitivities to any of these sources, definitely talk to your healthcare team about potentially adding a source of omega-3 in a supplement form if your intake is limited, and always discuss with your healthcare team first, of course, before including any kind of dietary supplement. And another important aspect of a heart healthy diet is including dietary fiber. So a high fiber diet is definitely helpful in terms of managing weight, improving digestion. You want to aim for 25 grams of dietary fiber per day, which most Americans really only consume an average of 10 grams per day. So you may want to try to make it into small chunks of a goal for yourself to try to aim for about 8 grams of fiber per meal. And you can do so by including plenty of fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, all the foods that we just mentioned. And if you do not have a lot of fiber in your diet, it is important to remember to add fiber slowly. If you add too much all at once, it can definitely contribute to constipation. Make sure to drink plenty of fluids as you're increasing your fiber to help promote regularity. And if needed, fiber additives can be useful, but definitely discuss with your healthcare team first if that makes sense for you. And just make sure they don't interfere with any medications that you might be taking. Now we'll go on to diabetes. So some nutrition strategies to prevent diabetes are, of course, maintaining a healthy weight, because overweight and obesity is linked to type 2 diabetes. You do want to eat a healthy, well-balanced diet that includes more of the plant foods that we keep talking about, and definitely reducing more of the processed foods and refined sugars. Of course, regular exercise is really important because it helps use up the blood sugar that's in your system. Limiting alcohol, managing stress is really key. And of course, drinking enough fluids. You want to aim for at least those 8 ounce glasses per day. And be sure to get regular checkups and screenings, checking for your fasting blood sugar with your typical blood work that you may get at your annual physical. And the doctor can check for other markers as well. And especially if you do have diabetes as a history in your family, or you've had a history of gestational diabetes, it is important to kind of make sure you have regular screenings as well. Planning your portions is also key. So when we think about what a healthy plate looks like, we want at least half of our plate to be our fruits and vegetables. So we want lots of good color to include a lot of plant foods here. Our carbohydrate foods really should be only on about a quarter of our plate. So you can see this is a great example here. And then our protein foods, our lean protein is on the other quarter of our plate. So we have a really kind of nutrient dense plate here, whereas typically we're kind of probably more inclined to put the veggies on only a quarter of our plate and just load up on the carbohydrate and the protein. So it's kind of we're kind of shifting that to add more of the plant foods on our plate. And then we don't need more than a quarter of our plate in terms of the serving of carbohydrates. So that's really a good visual to help you plan a healthy plate and choose healthy portions. Now, of course, it's also important to mention osteoporosis prevention when we're in perimenopause and menopause. And I know we reviewed this a little bit in the prior presentations, but I thought it was worth reviewing again. Definitely making sure to get adequate calcium intake, which is 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams per day as prescribed by your healthcare team. Of course, dietary sources are always best. So this includes things like dairy products, leafy green vegetables, canned fish with the bones like sardines. Fortified foods are great sources of calcium. And if you're not getting enough in your diet, talk to your medical team if adding a calcium supplement makes sense for you. Vitamin D is important as well. 1,000 to 2,000 units per day is a typical goal, but some people may need more if their blood levels are low, especially in our area in the winter months. We don't have a lot of sun exposure, so usually most of us do need to supplement at that time. Vitamin D is important because it helps the body absorb calcium, and sources include fortified milk, fortified cereals, egg yolk, fatty fish, sun exposure, of course, in the summer months. And if your intake is limited or you don't have a lot of sun exposure, or maybe you are fair skinned and not able to expose yourself regularly to the sun, definitely speak with your healthcare team to see if a vitamin D supplement makes sense for you. Magnesium is also a mineral that's helpful for our bones. So the daily recommended amount is about 300 milligrams per day. Sources are dark leafy greens, whole grains, legumes, fatty fish, nuts, seeds, bananas, avocado, even dark chocolate. And sometimes that's actually the reason why women tend to crave dark chocolate with their menstrual cycles because of the magnesium content. Vitamin K2 is also helpful for our bones. For general health, a typical dose is about 90 to 120 micrograms per day. And this typically meets the range for most healthy people, but for bone and cardiovascular health, some studies actually suggest even a little bit more may be beneficial, but it could be based on your own specific health goals. Sources do include fermented foods like sauerkraut or natto, egg yolks, liver, so the sources are a little bit more limited. So if need be, you can discuss supplementation with your provider. And a lot of the bone health supplements these days actually do usually contain some vitamin K2 if it is a kind of a blend. However, if you are on blood thinning medications like warfarin, for example, or Coumadin, definitely discuss with your healthcare team first if it makes sense for you to include vitamin K2. And of course, don't forget the importance of weight-bearing exercise. One of the best things you can do to keep your bones strong, things like jumping, using lifting weights, not being afraid of heavy weights, and with proper guidance on how to do so. Light jogging, walking, you can even wear a weighted vest or ankle weights. All of that is really helpful to keep your bones strong as well. And just to kind of reiterate some of the things that we're discussing too, and kind of bring it back to the health benefits in menopause, things like, the calcium-rich foods, which we talked about a lot throughout this series, just the importance of having them to maintain our bone health, reducing our risk of osteoporosis, um, and just knowing that there are different sources that we can include, and it is a nutrient that is really important to focus on at this phase and during this transition. Same thing with healthy fats, and just kind of reminding you here of the importance of healthy fats, the salmon, the flax seeds, the walnuts, not only heart health and inflammation, but also helping our hormones as well, alleviating menopausal symptoms, especially things like mood swings. Healthy fats are really important for our brain health as well. And fiber. I know we've mentioned fiber a few times already, several throughout the course of this series. Whole grains, fruits, veggies, legumes all provide fiber. Not only do they aid in digestion, support weight management, help us stabilize our blood sugar, help lower cholesterol, they're also really essential for helping us manage our energy and mood during menopause. So having high fiber foods, especially earlier in the morning when we don't necessarily always think to do so, can help kind of balance our energy levels throughout the day so we don't get larger swings in our blood sugar if we're eating a lot of empty carbohydrates that don't have a lot of added fiber. And remember, it's important to fuel your well-being. Having those nutrient-dense foods that we keep talking about, all those good, healthy plant-based foods, it helps you to prioritize your health. Even making small little changes, including more of these foods more regularly, really does support your body, helps you to feel your best, to have optimal health and wellness through the transition. So now that we've kind of recapped some of the benefits of eating all of these healthy plant-based foods for diabetes, heart disease, osteoporosis, overall health and wellness, I want to touch a little bit on nutrition strategies for cancer prevention as well. And one of my areas of expertise actually is in oncology nutrition. For 20 years, I was an oncology dietitian in both outpatient cancer centers and inpatient as well. So I definitely have a lot of good information to share with you about this topic. So whenever I talk about cancer prevention, I usually like to start with kind of this myth versus fact. A lot of people think, well, cancer is genetic or just some things in my environment that I can't control. There's not much I can do about it. But actually, around 40% of cancers can be prevented. And a lot of these slides are from the American Institute for Cancer Research, which has a lot of evidence-based information. Every 5 years, they do a huge consensus of all the research and collaborate with the World Cancer Research Foundation to look at all the evidence on nutrition, lifestyle, and diet and how it can impact cancer prevention, cancer recurrence. So their main recommendations, which they like to call their blueprint to beat cancer, include being a healthy weight, being physically active, eating a diet rich in whole grains, which of course, a lot of this is all the things that we have been talking about throughout this series, limiting alcohol consumption, limiting consumption of red meat, avoiding too much sugar sweetened beverages, limiting fast foods and processed foods that are high in sugar and starches and fats and oils. Of course, for mothers, if you're able to breastfeed your baby, very protective. Following these recommendations, if you do have a cancer diagnosis, and of course, last but not least, and I know I've reiterated this a lot, the caution with dietary supplements and not using supplements specifically as a protection for cancer. In fact, it is more important that you look through to do so through diet, lifestyle, and physical activity. So here, I think this slide is pretty powerful because not a lot of people realize the connection of overweight and obesity to cancer. So only about half of all Americans are actually aware of the obesity and cancer link, yet 7 in 10 Americans actually have overweight and obesity. And having overweight obesity actually increases your risk of 12 cancers, as you can see in the area with like the outline of the person, things like mouth and larynx cancer, liver cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, just as an example, esophageal cancer, ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, etc. So it is important to be aware of your body weight and manage that effectively by moving more and eating more healthfully. So healthy lifestyle, activity, and healthy eating. And also, when we think about the power of the plant foods that we keep talking about, I always like to emphasize kind of like eating the rainbow, choosing a variety of foods from all different colors to ensure that you get exposure to all the different vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals which have such great cancer fighting properties. So we always say color matters for cancer prevention and choosing a wide variety of plant foods. So adding more veggies and fruits, whole grains, plant proteins, drinking enough, and avoiding a lot of the processed foods, refined grains, processed meats, sugary drinks really is the key. And of course, we've talked a lot about dietary fiber. So we always say go for the whole grain. Try to eat at least 3 servings of whole grain foods per day. And in doing so, that actually reduces colon cancer risk by 17%. So a serving of a whole grain is either a slice of whole grain bread, 3 cups of popcorn, half a cup of cooked brown rice, or a 6-inch tortilla. So it's not hard to get in 3 servings when you see really that 1 serving is really not that much. And it's probably easy things that we can include in our everyday meal plan. Now, also too, it's important to talk about alcoholic beverages. So alcoholic beverages increase the risk for 6 particular cancers: mouth and pharynx, liver, stomach, colorectal, breast, and esophageal cancer. So if you do drink, definitely limit your consumption to no more than 2 drinks for a man and 1 drink for a woman. And for cancer prevention in general, if you have a strong family history of cancer, it is recommended not to drink alcohol, to try to fully limit it if possible. And I know we mentioned avoiding red and processed meats. So here also, there's very strong evidence that eating too much red meat and even small amounts of processed meats can increase risk for colon cancer. So it's important to limit red meat intake to no more than 12 to 18 ounces per week, and try to avoid processed meats if possible. So red meats include beef, pork, and lamb, and processed meats include ham, bacon, hot dogs, deli meats, etc. So definitely important to limit these. And you could actually, swap out for healthier proteins. So things like almonds, tofu, edamame, walnuts, chickpeas, black beans, using healthier sources of proteins are a great way to replace some of that red and processed meat with healthier ingredients that have a good impact on cancer prevention. Recommendations for sugar. So here we want to limit consumption of sugar-sweetened drinks. And in fact, a lot of our favorite kind of Starbucks or Dunkin' drinks have well more than the amount of sugar that we really should be consuming in any day. So that could be kind of double the amount just in one beverage. So definitely try to limit that, kind of get used to having things that are less sweet, and replace it with just healthy beverages that are naturally flavored with fruit, or seltzers, or things that don't have any added sugar would be a much healthier habit. So the other thing is just looking at kind of more of the link here with dietary fiber. So I know we talked about 3 servings, and that there is a lot of evidence in colorectal cancer. The 30 grams per day is really, it's something that, like I said, 25 to 30 grams, a lot of people do fall kind of short of that. But if you just start to be more aware of including more healthy foods, it can make a really big impact. And in fact, colon cancer in and of itself is the 3rd most common cancer in the United States. So including more whole grains in your diet really does have an impact. It helps to cleanse your colon. It helps, as we've mentioned, it helps with weight management, appetite control. So there's just so much benefits to having good dietary fiber in your diet, even beyond the cancer prevention. So try to include more if you can, and start slow. Maybe try with 1 meal at a time, or just changing 1 serving at a time. You could even do half and half. If you and your family aren't necessarily used to including more whole grain pastas or rices, you can always kind of start with half and half, or 3/4 and a quarter, just to kind of get your taste buds and your palate more used to the flavor and the texture. And of course, last but not least, it's really important to increase your physical activity. Stack your habits. You can do things even 5-10 minutes at a time. So try to pair simple workouts, even with daily rituals: 10-minute walk throughout the day, several times a day. you do 10-minute walk 3 times a day, it's just as good as a 30-minute walk. So just little bits, taking the stairs or parking extra far at the store or the grocery store. Little bits really do add up and help to increase your overall physical activity for good disease prevention. And as we always say, walk more, sit less. The key really is aiming for at least 30 minutes of moderate physical activity each day to reduce your cancer risk. So I know I've covered a whole lot of great little tidbits here in terms of disease prevention during perimenopause and menopause. The importance is I really want you to empower yourself with this information. The great thing about nutrition and eating healthy is it empowers us to take charge of our health. And that's why I truly enjoy what I do, because I love teaching people about the power of good nutrition. And this knowledge truly is power. We've debunked some of the myths, about perimenopause and menopause. We've learned really healthy foods to include, and I think a lot of this information can really help you to make positive and powerful decisions to support your own health and well-being, whether you're entering the transition, already in this transition, approaching menopause, or even postmenopausal. Any positive things that you can do for your diet, your health, and your lifestyle do make an impact. So I encourage you to kind of find a few things that we've talked about through the course of this series that you can change in your own diet and healthy habits. So I've really enjoyed sharing all of this information with you. If anyone is interested in diving a little bit deeper, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to me. Here's my contact information, my website. I'll be sending out some free nutrition guides as well through the library email list. So definitely look out for those. And I may even have coming up this spring and summer some weight loss challenge programs and healthy eating programs that I'll be offering through Westminster Nutrition. So definitely email me if you'd like to learn more about that. Some good resources for today's presentation: American Institute for Cancer Research, American Heart Association, American Diabetic Association. Of course, American Dietetic Association is also a great source for healthy eating as well. And I'd just like to thank you again for your participation and for attending this great series that we were able to put together through the library. Definitely don't hesitate to reach out if I can be of help to you in any way. And I wish you all the best of luck in your health journey. Take care, everyone.